Welcome back to Red Hunt, and this one really makes you question people's judgment. About 4 years ago, I had an accident while cooking, which resulted in my severing part of the median nerve in my wrist. As a result, I lost most of the sensation in my hand and some of my strength due to neuropathic pain. It took time for me to adjust to not using my dominant hand as much and to learn how to use my left hand more effectively. Recently, my friend and 2 colleagues announced that they would be leaving the place where I work to move on to new jobs. My friend suggested going bowling, and everyone enthusiastically agreed. I mentioned that I might find it difficult to lift the bowling ball since I cannot use my dominant hand. My friend suggested that I simply use my left hand. However, I had never attempted this before and felt a bit embarrassed for being the only one with a challenge. I asked if we could have the bumpers up on the sides of the lane so I would have a better chance of not getting gutter balls. My friend and 1 colleague declined, stating that they wanted to play like adults without the bumpers. This response made me feel embarrassed, so I did not reply. My friend then suggested that I could just come along and watch. That night, I talked to my teenage daughter about how I felt. She suggested that I could still go and use the ramp to help me roll the ball or ask for the bumpers to be put up. I explained the conversation I had regarding playing like an adult, and my daughter pointed out that it should not be too difficult for them to make accommodations for my disability if they genuinely wanted me there. When my friend added me to the WhatsApp group for bowling, I messaged to say I would be leaving the group, which I did, because I could not attend without the adjustments that they were unwilling to make. My friend then sent me a separate message after I left the group, saying, "Hey, I thought you were coming just to hang out. I knew you weren't going to bowl." I feel embarrassed because I believe I made a big deal out of the situation. I am also upset because I genuinely wanted to bowl, but they would not make it possible for me to do so. Now they are acting a bit strangely toward me, and I regret not just going along to hang out without asking for accommodations, especially since I was the only one who needed them. You really didn't do anything to deserve that criticism. I mean, it's pretty wild that they wouldn't even consider a venue that's accessible for everyone, right? Accommodating people with disabilities is just common sense. I totally get it, it's tough when you want to join in but can't because of others' lack of consideration. Plus, bowling alleys usually have ramps and bumpers for a reason. Your friend's comment about playing like grown-ups wasn't exactly supportive, honestly. They're acting all off now because they know they were straight up wrong. You had every right to stand up for yourself. Don't feel bad about wanting to enjoy the event, it's really on them for not making it possible. Just remember, their response says a lot more about them than it does about you. Am I the jerk for not showing my sibling my passport? Hello Reddit. This is my first post, so I hope I don't make any mistakes. My 17-year-old sister has not been the best sibling. This has ranged from normal disagreements to outright rejecting my sexuality when I came out to her as bisexual. She referred to my identity as feral and disgusting. As a result, we are not close. I do not trust her to go through my things without me being present, as she has stolen items, money, and gone through my phone in the past. The current issue began when she walked into my room without knocking, despite my attempts to establish that boundary. I was doing my schoolwork and tried to brush her off politely, but she continued to annoy me. I usually do not trust her when she comes to say hello because it often ends with her bothering me for a reaction or hurting my feelings. As I asked her to leave, she took out her phone and started taking photos of me while laughing. I felt confused and hurt when my sister, who I am supposed to treat kindly, was mocking me with the filters she applied to the pictures. After I repeatedly asked her to stop, she suddenly brought up the fact that I had received my passport. Initially, I was willing to show it to her, but after our prior conversation, I decided to be a little petty and say no. I have been trying to communicate that her actions have consequences, but she does not seem to listen. I told her, no, I am not going to show you because you have disrespected me, and I will not tolerate that. She responded by saying it was just a joke and that I should lighten up. However, I do not think making fun of someone is funny. To avoid further conflict, I held up my passport so she could see what it looks like. I am not inclined to let her hold my belongings after all the times she has proven she cannot be trusted. I understand how she might feel about that, but if she simply did not meddle with my things, we could avoid these issues. In response to our disagreement, she went to our mother and told her about the situation while omitting details that would explain my actions. After attempting to justify my side to our mother, she insisted that I should apologize to keep the peace. I do not feel like I did anything wrong, so the question remains, am I the antagonist in this situation? Your sister really needs to grow up, you know. I mean, a gray rock strategy might be your best bet here. She totally thrives on reactions, so not giving her one could make her lose interest. And definitely hide your passport well, maybe even ask a trusted friend to hold on to it for you. Don't leave it anywhere she can reach it, or she might just try to destroy it. Honestly, it sounds like she's just jealous and acting out. If you can, lock your door. A good lock can really help keep your stuff safe. Oh, and look into how that narcissistic vibe works so you can handle this better. Just remember, not reacting is often the best way to deal with someone like her. Stay strong and don't give in. Am I the jerk for supporting kicking out our temporary roommate because of what their parents did? I live with 2 other women in a 3-bedroom apartment, which is owned by my parents. I have known these women since college, and we are all close. They both pay rent directly to my parents, but we do not have a formal agreement in place because we have always been relaxed about it. Last Wednesday, one of my friends, Sophia, asked if a colleague of hers, whom I will refer to as Ava, could stay with us for a few weeks. Ava was running short on cash, her parents lived a few hours away, and she needed a place to stay. We agreed that she could stay and only pay for utilities, with no rent required. Typically, the 3 of us enjoy staying in on Saturday nights. We drink, smoke, and watch a couple of movies. Ava asked to join us, and we welcomed her without asking for any contribution for food or drinks. However, she became very intoxicated, so we helped her to Sophia's bed to sleep it off and returned to the living room. In the meantime, Ava apparently did not sleep and called her parents, crying about everything happening in her life. Her parents became very angry that she had consumed alcohol, as we later discovered they were conservative. They demanded to speak to the women Ava was living with, and Ava handed the phone to Sophia. Ava's parents called Sophia a variety of names, including derogatory terms. They told her that she should be ashamed of being a woman because she drinks, that she would go to hell, and that she brought disgrace to her parents. They also insisted that as long as Ava was living with us, we needed to behave, which meant no alcohol or boys. Their sense of entitlement was astonishing. Sophia started crying after that conversation, especially since both her parents are highly orthodox and frequently condemn her life choices. Perhaps this is what Sophia and Ava bonded over, I am not certain. The next afternoon, the 3 of us decided that Ava living with us would not work out, and we informed her of our decision. We did not force her to leave or give her a deadline, we simply told her to find a new place. Not even 10 minutes later, Ava came to Sophia and asked to talk to her father as he was angry and wanted to speak with her. I took the phone from Ava and confronted her father, explaining that we were allowing his daughter to stay with us for weeks without charging rent, and now he was blaming us for her being asked to leave. I also commented on his choice of words during their previous conversation and what that reflected about him as a man. Ava moved out on Sunday night and returned to the office on Monday, but she has been cold towards Sophia and has told several colleagues that Sophia kicked her out. Now I am wondering if I could have handled the situation better by simply remaining silent. Am I the antagonist in this situation? I mean, moment, right? You didn't do anything to deserve that criticism. Sophia really needs to learn how to handle her folks better. Honestly, handing over the phone. Terrible idea. If they're yelling, just deal with it yourself, you know. It's not fair to put that on someone else. She should have set clear boundaries instead of dragging others into it. You guys tried to help, but it's clear this arrangement just wasn't working. Hopefully, Sophia doesn't face too much backlash at work for saying she was kicked out. I mean, she should definitely stand up for herself there too. And Ava, yeah, she's clearly been playing the victim, and it's time to call her out on that vibe. Little honesty goes a long way in these situations. Am I the jerk? Friends told me I was difficult to be around after a sibling died. My sibling died very suddenly and traumatically 6 months ago, which shattered my world. A few years ago, I lost a parent during the COVID-19 pandemic and was isolated due to quarantine. Because of that, I made a conscious effort this time to stay connected, go out, and maintain friendships despite my grief. I had a friend group I saw regularly, 1 to 3 times a week, and talked to daily. They attended the funeral and brought flowers and snacks. After that, I continued texting, FaceTiming, and seeing them weekly. I never brought up my sibling's death, we just carried on as if nothing happened. I tried to smile through the pain. 8 days after the death, one friend messaged me crying because the luxury car she wanted had been sold. She expressed that she felt as if God must hate her. I found this tone deaf, but I understood that she had not experienced loss, so I let it go. Still, none of them ever asked how I was really doing. By Christmas, which was 2 months after the loss, I was barely holding it together. They did not check in on me, but invited me to go shopping on Boxing Day. That evening, they decided to watch Brother Bear, a movie about sibling loss. I felt overwhelmed but tried to manage my triggers. One friend had a photo of my sibling and started pretending to feed it and cover it with a blanket. Although I assumed this was meant to be lighthearted, it made me deeply uncomfortable. In February, they seemed distant. We made plans for manicures and a trip to the mall. One friend canceled the mall part but said we would see each other at the salon. After getting my nails done, I went to the mall anyway and ran into all of them shopping together. I greeted them and received awkward hellos. I later messaged to ask if something was wrong. They replied that it was hard to be around me because I did not seem like I was enjoying myself. I explained that I was grieving but still valued our friendship. They responded by saying, "This isn't about that. We're not talking about that." They told me I did not have to smile all the time, but they found it really difficult. I asked why no one ever checked in on me instead of assuming my grief was about them. They said, "We didn't know you needed that." Then they listed grievances that had built up since the month after the loss. They mentioned that I did not finish my food, that I looked miserable, and that I was not fun to be around. They ended the friendship by stating, "I haven't experienced grief, but I've seen it in others and I know this is different. This isn't about your grief, it's about your behavior." I felt invalidated. It felt as though my grief was weaponized against me. Am I the antagonist? Honestly, it sounds like those women were never true friends. I mean, they might have thought they were giving you space, but messing with your brother's photo. That's just plain creepy. And mocking your grief like that. Really callous. Putting on Brother Bear shows a serious lack of understanding about what you're going through. 6 months is still fresh, and yeah, it's tough to navigate that kind of loss. Friends should be supportive, not making light of your pain. If they can't show compassion, it's definitely time to let them go. You deserve people who actually care about you. So stay strong and find those who lift you up. You did nothing to deserve that kind of criticism. Am I the jerk for not engaging in conversation with a stranger? I am a 26-year-old female and went to a coffee shop today to get some schoolwork done because I needed a change of atmosphere. I live in Florida, and if you know the struggle of dressing for the heat and then being absolutely freezing in businesses where the air conditioning is blasting. I worked inside for a while, but when the cold became too much for me, I decided to move to one of the shaded outdoor tables. I set up at a table with my laptop open, earbuds in, music playing, and was fully focused on my research. The coffee shop is located in a small shopping center, so there are other businesses along either side of it and people sitting at tables or going about their day. Around me, there was a young man eating pizza from a nearby restaurant. At another table, a set of parents and their young daughter were enjoying ice cream. I was deeply invested in my work when I heard a voice next to me. "Ma'am." "Excuse me, ma'am." I removed an earbud to see an older man, probably in his 40s, standing next to me with a shopping basket filled with pies. He introduced himself and asked for my name. I felt confused, bewildered, and admittedly a bit scared. I was out by myself and unsure of what this man wanted. I did not want to give him my name, so instead of answering, I asked, "Why?" He explained that he was part of a recovering addicts organization, though I do not remember the name of it because I was in a state of fight or flight. I assumed he wanted to sell me the pies as part of a fundraiser. Then he said, "I was polite and introduced myself to you, so now you should do the polite thing and introduce yourself back." Again, I did not want to give him my name, nor did I particularly want to engage in the interaction. I quietly said, "Sure, I'm just kind of doing my own thing here," gesturing to my laptop. He seemed to get the hint, wished me a good day, and walked away. The whole interaction left me feeling sad and guilty. As a young woman in a large urban area, I feel like I always have to be on guard when going out by myself. There are so many horror stories that it is difficult for me to trust anyone who approaches me at random. On one hand, I feel bad because there is a good chance he was just trying to support his recovery organization through this fundraiser. On the other hand, I was clearly not looking to have conversations, as evidenced by my typing away at my laptop with AirPods in. Additionally, he did not approach any of the other people around me, like the family eating ice cream or the man eating pizza. Why just me? I do not like having to be so defensive and protective of myself, but I feel like at this point, men should understand better than to approach a young woman who is out by herself. Am I the antagonist? Real talk, you didn't do anything to deserve that criticism. I mean, you had your earbuds in, right? But you were clearly focused on something else. Honestly, it doesn't matter if he was selling pies, you don't owe him a conversation. His guilt trip. Yeah, that was a bit sketchy. You've got every right to protect your peace. It's smart to listen to your gut when it comes to strangers. You weren't rude at all, and there's really no need to feel bad about not engaging. His approach was intrusive, and you were just trying to enjoy your time. Everyone deserves that space, you know. So yeah, don't feel guilty for putting yourself first. Am I the jerk for standing my ground? I stood up to my boyfriend of almost 3 years. This isn't the first time I have stood up for myself, but this is the first time I did not give him my usual response and overly apologize. To provide some context, he and I lived together in his camper on my property. When we started dating, things were okay at first. I thought that the few issues we had were due to his past relationship not being a good one. However, I am starting to wonder if the problems are stemming from him. I will share a few examples of what has happened that prompted me to make this post. In one instance, I told him that I thought we needed friends outside of our relationship, and he became upset. He asked me if I did not want to spend time with him anymore, and I clarified that it was important for us to have people to hang out with. He interpreted my words differently, so I apologized multiple times, and that was the end of that discussion. Recently, he came home from work and saw me looking at dresses. He asked if I was looking at wedding dresses, and I explained that I was not planning for that anytime soon because we are not financially stable enough for it. I thought everything was fine after that, but I was mistaken. The next morning during breakfast, which he cooked, he looked at me and asked if I did not want to marry him anymore. I had never said that. I simply mentioned that we could not afford wedding plans, plus he had not even proposed yet. This past weekend, I had been sick for over a week with a severe headache and fever. He wanted to show me a video, so I turned to look, but the light hurt my eyes and intensified my headache. I made a facial expression that indicated I was in pain. He misinterpreted this and thought I was angry, so he began to close out his phone. I became upset with him for jumping to conclusions again, and I raised my voice. I later apologized for my reaction. I do not like being angry or upset, but I also dislike when everything I say and do is taken out of context. Since then, he has barely spoken to me and has not apologized for his actions. I understand that I have a resting facial expression that may not appear friendly all the time, and I do not smile often, primarily because it can be painful due to nerve damage, which I have explained to him multiple times. I am just tired of him taking everything I say and do out of context and then getting upset with me. I apologize for the long post. I needed to express my thoughts and see if I am in the wrong. People, including myself, can sometimes be short-sighted and self-centered. I strive not to be that way, but I do not always succeed. I try to learn from my mistakes and apologize when necessary. Thank you for reading. I can't even, you really didn't do anything to deserve that kind of criticism. I mean, it's pretty clear why a guy in his 40s is dating someone much younger. Women his age. They know their worth and they won't put up with his nonsense. Everything you've mentioned about him just raises red flags. Honestly, it's usually these older guys looking for younger women they can manipulate. At 45, he should have his life together, but it sounds like he really doesn't. This just feels emotionally abusive and manipulative. You deserve so much better than that. Don't make excuses for his behavior, okay? Seriously, consider ending this relationship. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.